All right, big news about the Oblivion Remaster is that we have patch 1.2 coming very soon, and what's something exciting about it is that they are coming out with the journeyman difficulty between adept and expert. So the big change is that they have enemy combat damage and player combat damage, and you can change both of these to whatever you want, and they added a journeyman tier so that there are now 6 difficulties. Journeyman is in between adept and expert. I'll probably try enemy combat damage at journeyman and player combat damage at adept. To find the multiplier for journeyman, first I assumed it would be the same as classic Oblivion, right in between adept and expert, so right in between 1 and 3.5, so I thought it'd be 2.25. And the reason for that is, well, if we look at the multipliers currently in the remaster, it goes from 6, 3.5, 1, to 3.5 and 6, kind of whether you think of that as a multiplier or divider, depending on if it's player damage dealt or player damage taken. In original Oblivion, these difficulties line up exactly with these spots on the slider, perfectly in the middle between the lowest and the middle, and perfectly in the middle between the middle and the highest. Master is the same as the bar all the way to the right. That was a times 6 multiplier for damage taken, and a 1/6 times multiplier for damage dealt. So I thought Journeyman would be exactly in between adept and expert. And at that point on the slider, that is a 2.25 times multiplier. So I was going to assume that would be our multiplier. You would deal 1 divided by 2.5 times damage, and you would take 2.25 times damage. But after testing with the console commands,
Hello, I don't think we've
excuse me,
met.
Dharma. I can use get AV health, see he's got 17.06, and punch him. I'm dealing 1.84. He went down to 16.32, and if we do some quick math, we can see that my damage is being reduced by 2.5 times. So it's a 2.5 times multiplier rather than a 3.5. With changing enemy health to journeyman, you will notice that multiplying a number by 2.5 will change 40% back to 100%. 40% times 2.5 is 100%. And a lot of enemies were close to 40% health in the remaster compared to classic. A good example of that is a Goblin Berserker. Goblin Berserkers had 40% of their original health from the classic game, so now if you put it on Journeyman difficulty, they will have 100% health. Race will be close to their original health, Fated Race will be close, some enemies will be slightly above. So if you want to experience the difficulty of original Oblivion, set player character damage to Journeyman, and they'll have about 19% more health than they did in the original game. Now, I think enemies were too damage spongy. Leaving player character damage at Adept should be just fine. It should still be fun as long as the enemies actually provide a threat. Putting it to Journeyman, well, a Clan Fear in the remaster only deals 20 damage. Putting it to Journeyman will bump that up to 50, which is a 38% increase from the original 36. So I do think that could actually add a decent amount of challenge to the game. So unless you're really building a powerful character that's meant to break the game, setting the enemy damage dealt to Journeyman should be a pretty fun way to keep the damage pretty good. Now, Clan Fears are one that had their damage reduced. Most enemies actually did not have their damage reduced, so it should be nice to set it to Journeyman. Daedroths will do 100 damage, different enemies will deal pretty solid damage, and you'll have to worry about things that aren't just spell reflect. Enemies will actually be able to kill you, and they shouldn't be one-shotting you. So I think that'll be a fun way to play. Enemy health will be adept, enemy damage will be journeyman. I think that's going to be the way I'm going to play in the future. It sounds like a fun way to do it. So I'm glad about this patch. It's pretty cool. Other than that, most of the patch notes are pretty boring. They fixed some crashes, especially the paralyzing an already paralyzed NPC or shooting an NPC with an arrow a whole bunch shouldn't crash the game anymore. They're claiming that. That sounds very good. That was always very, very, very annoying. I love that. However, there's no mention of my repair crash, so I'm still going to always crash my game every 20 seconds when I repair my gear, so that's really frustrating. The other big changes are the player height scaling should be fixed, they claim, so maybe high elves will be faster than everyone again, and wood elves will go back to their F tier status, where they belong, of course. You should be able to see Argonian and Khajiit tails, which I didn't know you couldn't, but that's good. I don't pay attention to everything when I'm streaming, so that's probably why I missed it. And they fixed some other crashes and bugs. And this one was always annoying. Sometimes when you blocked, NPCs would just like AFK and not fight you anymore. So that should be fixed too. I'll have a link in the description to the article where I got all this from. So if you want to read all these little different patch notes, you can. Most of them are pretty boring. It's just like little bugs that are fixed. The big thing is the difficulty changes. I think that will be a great change for a lot of players. Just kind of sad that it took this long to come out. A lot of people are kind of burnt out of Oblivion because, well, they've been playing it for a few months now. Better late than never. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.